Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning from where I am in the UK. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm speaking to you from the UK here, where we're having a beautiful sunny morning so far. This is me. My name's Ian Hodgkinson. I'm an application engineer based in the United Kingdom. So what we're going to be talking about today is the TechX wall panel or wall controller for the Tesira range of products. So we're going to go through the hardware and features, how you install the product, and then a bit of programming, firstly showing you how to do it in PowerPoint, and then switching across to show you live how to do this. So firstly, the hardware and features. So two versions of the product. The TechX 1000, as you can see, has an LCD with capacitive touch buttons on it, up to 6 programmable buttons, which can be latching or momentary. The display on it is 74mm or 2.9 inches across, corner to corner, but it also includes a rotary encoder controller with push button, primarily used for volume controls and the like. Its brother, the TechX 2000, is a full capacitive touch LCD with 96mm from corner to corner, and this one, being larger, has up to 12 programmable buttons, again completely customizable latching or momentary buttons, and you can put whatever you want onto those buttons or functions. Both of them come in white or black color, and both of them also have the brightness controlled by ambient LED light. There's also an LED light bar at the top. You can program multiple pages, and of course the device is Ethernet based and PoE powered, so it's very easy to integrate into your Tesera system. So this gives you an idea of how the programmable light bar works. So 3 colors, red, amber and green, which you can program so that they follow a mute status, for example, in a room, but freely programmable. So the installation of the product could not be easier, really. So, excuse me, it comes in, the backplate of the product is removable. So you normally remove the backplate, connect that to your wall box so that we have all different pitch of screw holes available so that it fits into all international back boxes, or of course it can be mounted directly onto the wall. So, and as you can see, there's an in and a through Ethernet connectors here to allow the integration to go very simply. The in-wall block is only 4 centimeters square by 1.1 centimeters deep, so that will fit inside all of these standard back boxes or into the wall void very easily. The dimensions of the product, 9 centimeters across and 13 centimeters high, so very compact and easy. Removing the rear plate or the wall mount plate is very easy by just applying a screwdriver to the bottom slot, and then the electronics part comes away very easily. We also have a wall mount option called the TechX TM or table mount. This is very aesthetically pleasing, so sits on the table very nicely. This comes with a 1.8 meter cable included, terminated with a Cat5 cable, Cat5 connection, of course, and again available in white or black. So the connection topology is how you connect it into your Tesira system. Very simple. So you can use a direct peer-to-peer connection to the control port of a Tesira Forte rack mount that I have in this case, but of course you need to use a PoE injector. So that's a great solution if you're just using one panel for a Tesira system without the need for any external networking. Next step up, we've shown it here with a TC5, I believe this is, and a star topology. So you've got a PoE port on the switch. Doesn't have to be our TC5, it could be any network switch on the control network, connecting off to the 3 different wall panels easily. For some applications, you can also employ the daisy chain topology. Up to 4 TechXs can be connected in a daisy chain format, but obviously you need to be aware of this when you're making the cabling for the installation to make this work correctly for the project. So in essence, each of these TechXs has a small network switch inside it to carry the system through the star. I beg on through the daisy chain. So on to the programming. Very simple nowadays. The first iteration of TechX was a little bit difficult to understand and to make work correctly. So we've made this an awful lot easier in the last years. So now TechX is part of Tesira design file and system. So no more of having a separate programming of the TechX. And now there is also a block in the Tesira software for TechX. So if you go to the control section, you'll find TechX. If you click on that and drop into the body of your Tesira system, you'll be given an initialization box where you can choose the TechX 1000, so the one with the rotary encoder, or the TechX 2000, the one with the larger display. Once you do that, you get a block with purple, for all of our controls are purple, into the system design. If you double click on that, you'll get the dialog box to allow you to do the programming of the TechX that you've chosen. So on the general side, if we just go through all of these settings on the general side of the TechX 1000 in this case. So at the top we have the device ID. So this is very important because it links the virtual programming in your Tesira design to the actual piece of hardware that you want to use. So I normally give the TechXs that I use a physical location. So you'll see later on that I have my panels designated as right or left, but equally it could be meeting room 1, meeting room 2, and so on. Then we have the device color. Unfortunately, we're still bound by physics, so we can't choose the device color physically from here. So this is just the representation in the software. We have our page controls. So now we have the ability to do multiple pages and you can flip between those pages. So this is where you assign and choose and label the different pages in your design. Then we have the page settings, so more about that in a moment. TechX 1000 supports these button layouts, so 2 buttons up to 6 buttons. So obviously we're restrained by a smaller LCD size here. The TechX 2000, of course, can have many more buttons, up to 12 buttons from the 3. So you can choose any one of these button layouts during the programming. Then what we can do is go on and program the buttons. So once I've chosen, you can see here I've chosen just 2 buttons for this design. I can then choose a button by selecting it on the screen. Then I have all of these controls in the top tabs here for the selected button. So firstly, I have on the display tab, so the display is where I can set the colors and the text for the button. Then I have what happens when you release the button after pressing it, when you press and hold the button, and when you simply press the button. I can choose the button mode to be a normal momentary action or a latching action. I can choose whether the button color and text applies for all of the states or just one of them. And then I have the button properties. So this is where you can set the color, the text, the icon, and so on for each of the buttons independently. If I go on to the press function here, this is where I can choose what happens when I press this button. So what happens to the light bar state. Also, if this button is purely a page flip, so you'll see me later on showing you how to use page flips. Also the title text. So the title text is this text at the top of the screen here. So it's useful to just show, for example, now where you're working on zone 1 or zone 2 and so on. Then below that, I have the command that this button actually needs to control. So you'll see in a moment how easy this is to do. So here, for example, if I use the drop down, what it does is it takes all of the processing blocks from the design that you've got loaded at the moment. So for example, in my case, I'm choosing source selector, and that's the instance tag of the block. Then I can choose the function that I want to control. So in my case, I'm choosing the source select, and then I choose the channel or parameter for that source select. So I want to choose channel 1 here. Then if I select the rotary encoder on the display here, excuse me, I can then control or program the functionality for that. So the controls for the rotary, I can choose what happens when I push and hold the button. So this has a push button associated with the rotary as well. I can choose what happens when I purely press the button and let it go. Then, of course, I can control what happens, which level control normally is being controlled by the counterclockwise and the clockwise rotation of the rotary encoder. So here it shows you if I select rotary clockwise, rotate clockwise, I can choose the level control, for example, but it shows me all of the processing blocks in my design with level controls. So I've chosen level 1. I've chosen I want to increment the level by a percentage. I choose the channel and I choose how much percentage I want to change per step. So you'll feel on the rotary encoder that it has a number of steps on it to give you some feedback of what's happening. Okay, so that's a little bit inside the software. So what I'm going to do now is flip across to the Tesira software. So hopefully you can all see the Tesira software now on the screen. So first of all, what I'm going to do is explain how this design works. So I literally have a TechX 400 here. So I have my 2 analog inputs and a tone generator going into 3 source selectors, then out via level controls out to 2 zone outputs on my TechX. So I'm not using the 3rd output, but I have meters on the input, level controls for each zone output, and then meters on the output so you can see exactly what's happening here. So a very simple system. This part of the design I'll come on to later, but this is a way of controlling the PMR 4000R presets for the radio station, and also to control the lighting controller in my house, for example, but we'll come on to that in a moment. So the first thing I want to do is add in a TechX 1000 here so that I can see, so I can program that device directly. So I go to the control section, choose TechX, click on the screen, and I can see the choice for TechX 1000 or 2000. So I'm going to go for the 1000. So I now have the block here. If I double click on that, you can see exactly what I showed you before. So first thing I'm going to do is change the device ID. So in my system, you'll see in a moment, I've got 2 TechXs connected. What I'm going to do is just change this one because I've already labeled the TechX in the system design as right. Device color, I'll leave as white, and I'm just going to have 1 page, and I'm going to have the layout as 3 buttons here. So you can see here I have 3 buttons here already. So now to program those buttons, what I do is I select the first one, and here you can see I can choose the mode here, so normal or latching. I just want normal for now. All states is fine, and the button being blue is also fine. So this one, I'm going to change the text to be PMR, which is my radio player, and that's all fine. That's exactly what I need at the moment. Now what I want to do is choose what happens when I press this button. So if I choose press here, I simply want it to change the source selector to source select channel 1. So that's the programming done for the first button. Select the second button, choose the label text, excuse me, I didn't mean £. Then I go to the press function and choose instance tag, source select 1, and then channel 2, because I want it to change to channel 2 of the source selector. Then I choose the 3rd one, and then this one is my tone generator. And the function I want here is source selector 1, source select zone or input 3. So now I've got my 3 functions already programmed onto those buttons. So the other thing I can do is here in the title text, I can give an indication of what this page is actually doing. So I'm just going to change that to zone 1 so you can see the title text up here. So I've got my programming done. Before I upload that into Tesira, however, what I'm going to do is show you some of the, or how the TechX appears in the Tesira hardware list. So if I go to device maintenance here, it's discovered a design that I've already got made in my Tesira and the Tesira itself. So obviously, being a remote device, the TechX doesn't appear in this device list. So if I go to remote devices here, you can see I have my 2 TechXs here. So I've got them labeled TechX 1000 and 2000. If I choose the 1000, and go to network settings, you can see I have all of the normal Tesera style network settings, the DHCP or static IP. I have the device description where I can change the description. So this is the device description for the networking, not for the device ID to match up with the software. Here in the TechX 1000 properties, however, I have a number of things. So firstly, this is the device ID. So this is how I assign the ID to the actual physical device. So I've called this right because it's the panel on the right of my display here. Also on this screen, you have various functions, for example, an unlock code, so you can protect the panel itself from unauthorized users by putting an unlock code on it, so that when it times out, it will ask for a PIN code. Also, this is the lock timeout, and then you have some functions for the display itself. So automatic brightness control, dim LCD brightness, light bar brightness, and so on and so on. So we'll leave all those as they are. If I did have any faults here, I could see them here and then obviously reboot the device. So that's about it. Another nice thing to show you here is if I turn the camera over so that you've got the display of the TechX as well, if I just turn these back on. So here on this TechX, you can see on the right-hand display, or the right-hand TechX, you can see it's got the serial number, the host name, i.e. the Forte that it's, or the Tesera device that it's using. The device ID, as I've set, is right, the IP address, the firmware version, and the MAC address. So you can see all of that information in here. Another nice thing you can do is go in the Tesera software up here to locate devices. I can choose the TechX itself and say locate. So it shows me there the TechX 1000 and the 2000. So that's all good. So that's how I set up the ID of the device. So as we've seen, I've made my programming for this TechX that I need here. So what I'm going to do, excuse me, so what I'm going to do now is close that and then just forward that, upload it into my Tesera, going through the normal procedure. It's done the background compile, upload into the Tesera itself, no partition changes, update. So then on the screen you should see the TechX will update, or both of them will reload, and you can see here on the TechX, if I start the audio now, you can see on the TechX that it's taken that design from here that I've programmed here. So that's all well and good, that's all beautiful. And if I show you here, if I change the source, if I change the source on the panel, you can see on the Tesera software that that is following. And okay, I failed to remember to program the volume control. So let's just drop offline for a moment. Open the TechX, choose the rotary encoder just to show you how easy this is. Choose the instance tag, which is level 1, and I want to increment channel 1 by, let's say, 5%. Then decrement, so I choose instance tag, it's level 1, and I want to decrement channel 1 by 5%. So that shows you how easy it is to make a design change, upload into Tesera, update the config. So once that's taken the update, the panels refresh again. Start audio, so now you can see on the meters my audio is running here, but now of course if I change the level on the TechX, you can see that it's adjusting in the Tesera software, and you may be able to hear that change as well. So that's all well and good, that's really nice, but it's not perfect because of course if I change the source in the Tesera software, it's not reflected on the panel, on the right at least anyway, the one that I just programmed. So let's fix that. So we're going to change that by making these into toggle buttons here. So disconnect from system, open the TechX again. Open the TechX, choose the PMR button here. Let me just move this over so you can see it correctly. Now what I'm going to do is change this to latching mode, and I'm going to change this to individual states. So now the bottom one, I'm going to change to a red color, and I'm going to do that for each of the buttons here. So change to latch, change this to red, and then the third button, change it to latch, change this, So now if I just check the programming, okay, so the PMR, the command I need to send is logic state 1, no, I beg your pardon, source selector 1, source select channel 1. And the reason I've had to change this is because I changed the mode of the button from unlatching, or from momentary to latching. So I'm going to reinstate the source selector, source select channel 2, and then the third one, I'm going to change this again to source select channel 3. So that's done. So now if I upload that into Tesira again, okay, through that, update my config. So after the panels have refreshed, you'll see I now have double state buttons, so easy to see the on off, and you can see that it's changing the values and changing the volume in the Tesira. But now, of course, if I change them in Tesira, oops, excuse me, I need to start my audio, of course. You can see that when I make a change in Tesira, it reflects on the panel itself. So that's really nice that you get that direct feedback, and you can see how easy it is to disconnect from system, make a change, upload again, and you're up and running extremely quickly. So hopefully that's all self-explanatory or very simple to understand. Of course, if you have any questions at any time, you can ask them in the GoToWebinar questions box, and I'll be glad to answer them as we're going through, or at the end we'll have a time for that as well. So what we're going to do now is disconnect from the system, and I'm going to show you a little more of a complex programming. So the first thing I want to do, because I'm going to use the right panel here, I'm going to just change this to something different so that it's no longer associated. And what I'm going to do is take in this panel panel design which I programmed offline earlier just to save a bit of time. So this is the TechX 1000. If I open this one, you can see here it's a little more complex, because what I've got is first thing we're going to do is change the device ID to right so that it uploads to the right place. But here what we can see is I've got the main page. So this is the main page that we're looking at here, and it has 3 buttons on, which simply, if I choose one of them, you will see that when I choose the press function, it's going to do a page flip to the page called zone 1, and then similarly page flip to zone 2 and page flip to zone 3. Okay, so if I choose page zone 1, this is where it's going to flip to. So now this is a control for functions only in zone 1. I do apologize, I should have moved this over here. So that's going to go across to this page for zone 2. This button here is going to flip to zone 2. So now this is functions only for zone 2. So if I choose one of them here, you can see this is the source select 5, which is this second one here. So if I select that here, you can see in the bottom left it's source select 5. Then this one is the source select 5 channel 2, and so on. And I also have a no source function here. I've also got a mute button here, and then of course the level control program for controlling level 1 but channel 2 in this case. So you can see from the main page I've got the 3 different zones. Then I've also got a 4th page which is for lighting. So if I click on this, you can see here what this is doing is actually controlling a logic state function here, which is related to, if I just turn the camera off for a moment, that's related to this lighting controller here. So this logic state simply fires a command string to my lighting controller in my house. So let's go back to the camera again. I'm going to upload this into Tesira. So once that's uploaded and I've updated the configuration, you'll see the panels have started to refresh again. I'm going to start all and close. So now you can see this panel has updated. I'm going to go across to just the cameras now. So here you can see my two panels. So the first thing to understand is that on the right, I've got the panel which I've labeled Biamp test, of course. I can choose the zone that I want to control. So here I can now choose, if I go back to the tripod cam here. So here you should see that when I make any changes here, it's only affecting zone 1. And I can choose the source for zone 1 and I can mute zone 1. Then if I want to change something in a different zone, I just go back to the main page, choose zone 2. So now I'm controlling functionality only in zone 2. And you can see here the level control for zone 2 is changing. Similarly, the mute and the no source. Then I go back to the main page, go to zone 3, and I'm choosing the source for zone 3, and so on. So hopefully you can see there that, you can see there that very simply I've made a simple 3-zone controller. So I can control the source selection and level for 3 different zones on one panel. Then the fourth button I've got here for my lighting controller. So here what I've got is 3 buttons, one for each of the different lights in my office here. So I've got my desk lamp. So hopefully you can see when I do this that the ambient light changes. Then I've got my office light. So you can see the reflection of the light coming on and off here. So that's simply sending a command string or controlling a logic state, which is sending a network command string out to my lighting controller in my house. So very simply done. One other function I'll show you here is on the TechX 2000. So obviously I've got this program currently to control zone 1 only. So if I go back to here, so this is controlling zone 1 only. And what this is doing is the source select. So if I go back to zone 1 here, the other thing to recognize is that these all stay in sync. So I've got the same function on 2 different panels and even 2 different panel types. And the functions stay in sync, even the muting and so on. Secondly, however, I've got the lighting controller in here again, but then I've also got the radio presets function here. So what this will do, you won't be able to hear it, but this is changing the presets within the PMR 4000 radio player. So hopefully you can see how flexible this is and how easy it is to program all of the functionality on here. I hope that's been useful for you today. It's short and sweet, but hopefully you can get the idea that it's extremely simple and easy to program very powerful controls for your Tesira systems using TechX panels. So I'll bid you a good day, and also if you have any questions remaining, please remember to contact us at support@biamp.com. If you have any questions, of course, we'll be happy to help you or design questions. So I'll bid you farewell for today. Hope it's been useful, and speak to you again sometime. Thanks, bye.